Lanka, the pearl of the Indian Ocean, has been known for its abundance of natural resources from centuries ago. Kings from the beginning of civilization lived from this land, developing its agricultural resources with dams, waterworks and practical irrigation works, which were the marvel of her neighbors and the foreign rulers who subsequently dominated. Sadly, however, through sheer ignorance coupled with centuries of this foreign dominance, these natural resources were plundered and greatly reduced. It was left to successive governments to find ways and means of feeding its people and giving them sustainability, a task not taken too seriously. In 1992, a USAID-funded private sector agro-enterprise project opened its doors in Sri Lanka with the aim of giving Sri Lanka's people avenues of sustainability and marketability in an environment that was gradually adjusting to open market policies.
The heart of development is sustainability. Sustainability is rooted in the idea that to give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So sustainability is really making a difference that makes a difference, a long-lasting difference. There are generally, when we talk about development theory, there are generally three areas, at least in ag development, that we work in. We work with the ministries, we work with private sector enterprise development, and we work with poverty alleviation directly with the poor. There are pitfalls associated with each one of these levels, each one of these intervention areas. With the government working directly with the ministry, the ministry will sometimes treat the intervention as interference. They have their own political agendas, they have their own things to do, and they resent foreigners not only coming in and interrupting their political aspirations, but also they're a little resentful about foreigners coming in and telling them how to run their business and how to run their country. The second pitfall with working with the ministries is that oftentimes in developing countries, the governments are unstable. So any gains that are made are sometimes lost with a new administration or a new regime. And the third pitfall with working directly with ministries is that sustainability, working with the ministries, generally mean policy adoption. The problem with working directly with policy in the ministry is that there's no constituency group or no advocacy group to ensure that the policy is appropriate, that it's relevant, and that it's needed, and that it's sustainable. There's lots of policies that have been done by various groups with the ministries that are now sitting on the shelves collecting dust because they're never implemented and they're not relevant. At the private sector level, there's pitfalls as well. In the private sector, you need to have access to the entire distribution system. Okay? For example, you can't increase production without increasing the market in a balanced manner. If you do, the production comes onto the market with no market for it to go to, and then the prices fall, and the farmers are often worse off than when we started. Vice versa is true. If the market goes up and there's no production to meet it, then the market will close up and move somewhere else. See? So in order for this to be viable, the entire system has to be balanced. Direct poverty alleviation projects, they too have pitfalls. And the pitfalls are, the main one is this, that the poor generally don't have enough money to augment the investment that the projects make or the investors make. And as a result of that, they can't take advantage of the multiplier effect. Most poverty alleviation projects, or a lot of them, dissolve sooner or later into a classic example of giving a man a fish for a day.
AgEnt was a collaborative effort by the Government of Sri Lanka, USAID and Oregon State University, together with their subcontractors, Development Alternatives Incorporated, Fintrack Incorporated, and Management Advisory Services. Oregon State University implemented the project under a cooperative agreement.
USAID had been in the agriculture sector for a long period of time because it's an agricultural country, and we were working with the agricultural players for a long time. First, we worked with the government officials and the government sector. The Oregon State University was asked to implement this project in Sri Lanka, and they came with another group of firms from US. They were asked to start the operations in Sri Lanka, and they started in late 1992. And by early 1993, I think they were set with all their local staff and expatriate staff as well. At the beginning of the project, we provided the Oregon State University with some targets. They have to achieve these targets, at the end of year 1, year 2, year 3, so on. So they were achieving all these targets, and then we thought we have to change the direction to a certain extent according to the needs of the country. AgEnt has done a lot to the Sri Lankan agriculture sector, and if anybody wants to find some evidence for that, I think it's a matter of going towards the Uva province and Kandy province, and you can see the amount of things that they have done.
AgEnt worked on the engine of the economy, which is the private sector, where goods and services are exchanged. AgEnt's goal was to build the private sector production and processing capacity, establish market linkages, and in short, make the market economy work.
The best place to start was in the enterprise development level, and so that's what we did. The timing was right. Sri Lanka was moving from a closed economy to an open economy. So the timing couldn't have been better. We found entrepreneurs in the economy that were those bright lights, those guys who make things happen in the economy. At the nuts and bolts level, they work, where goods and services are exchanged, where the engine of the economy works. So that's where AgEnt started. We started right on the engine.
One of the things that's impressed me so much about the project, and one of the reasons I think it's been successful, is that while always coordinating and with the support of the Sri Lankan government, you've really sort of gone over the government and worked directly with first individual entrepreneurs and later with associations and industry groups and so on like that. So I think that effort to get directly to, if you will, the economic actors and the people who have both an interest and a capability to make things happen. I've seen a lot of projects in Sri Lanka and elsewhere in the developing world where all the best intentions in the world, one gets bogged down at kind of the government level and trying to write the regulations and work and create government institutions, which play a very important role. But at the end of the day, governments, including my own, move more slowly than most successful private sector things. So I think that, in my opinion, is one of the reasons the AgEnt project has been so successful, is you've gone directly to the actors in the economy, brought them into it, involved them in the project from the start, listened to what they wanted, and moved on. All the time, I mean, keeping the Sri Lankan government and the American government, appraised of what you were doing, but not kind of seeing it as a government-to-government project. I think that's a formula that I think has worked well here and probably would work well in other situations in Sri Lanka or elsewhere.
AgEnt started with enterprise development. The project initially identified viable market-driven enterprises and worked to increase production, processing capabilities and markets. The goal was to first build sustainability at the enterprise level by increasing jobs, sales, investment, production and processing capacity, industry investment, and new sustainable markets, and later build sustainability at the industry and national levels. First, AgEnt identified viable business opportunities by establishing a client base. AgEnt used these tools to build sustainability into promising enterprises. SWOTs, shared grants, technical training, technology transfer, local advisors, equipment, importation of new breeding stock, introduction of seed varieties, technical assistance, training, industrial trade shows, technical advising, and marketing strategies. Armed with the belief that Sri Lanka has the potential to take a leading role in providing for itself and perhaps its neighbors in Southeast Asia, AgEnt began working with a host of agro-based business enterprises across the board. The areas include meat products, livestock, spices, processed food, fruit and vegetables, field crops, oilseeds, horticulture and coir products. Pioneer crops AgEnt has introduced are vanilla, maize, sunflower and greenhouse vegetables. Development of an international competitive strategy is a priority. This will necessarily increase sales and income. Furthermore, assistance is provided to facilitate additional investment and in the introduction of new innovative technology. This in turn will create new jobs, new products and new markets. AgEnt develops these new products in cooperation with various local institutions, organizations and government agencies through training and field days.
From my perspective, I've been here about 3 years, and I've had the opportunity to see AgEnt both at the individual level. I've been up and around Puttalam looking at individual farmers, and David Anderson and I were in Neuralia seeing tomatoes being grown and some of the other projects. Obviously, at that level, you see people who are in business that wouldn't have been in business or wouldn't have been doing it in the same way or wouldn't have been having the success that they've had, the technology, the opening to markets, and that whole, you've changed people's lives at a, if you will, kind of an individual or micro level.
Introducing new technology and developing skills in post-harvest handling, distribution and marketing, and evaluating and expanding crop technologies, targeting import substitution, thereby saving foreign exchange through the integration of production, processing and marketing linkages is another area AgEnt specializes in. New technology transfer is highlighted by the introduction of USA-manufactured polytunnels for production of high-value horticultural products during off-season for both domestic and export markets. AgEnt started by building a greenhouse at the Uber Province In-Service Training Institute and installed a state-of-the-art hydroponic growing system. 3 years later, there are 99 greenhouses on the ground and several others in various stages of construction. The demand for training from farmers, entrepreneurs and students has stretched the capacity of this training facility, where they have over 1,500 people on the waiting list.
Here we are testing more than 6 tomato varieties and more than 7 bell pepper varieties. After that, we are going to recommend these, if there is good performance, we can recommend these varieties to the farmers. We started this control and environment agriculture training in 1997, and AgEnt help us in various ways. Actually, they trained 2 of our officers, and they gave actually seeds, fertilizers and more other instruments.
Protected agriculture is now on the national curriculum for agriculture students. The travails of traditional agriculture prompted one entrepreneur to build his own polytunnel. The 74-year-old entrepreneur has 2 girls who manage the workings of the entirety of the polytunnel. bringing in a total of about 1,000 kilograms of produce every 6 months. Here is an excellent example of an entrepreneur taking advantage of the technology available from AgEnt.
I had heard about this new technology of polytunnels, and when I made inquiries, I was directed to an official of AgEnt. AgEnt helped me to draw up a feasibility study and a business plan, and I started with one polytunnel. AgEnt officials used to visit me every week to give me advice on all the intricacies of planting, grow bags, and pruning. Because of their unstinted assistance, I decided to put up 2 more polytunnels. I now have a total of 6,000 square feet, and my 2 female assistants manage all the work regarding the polytunnels. I would never have dreamed of improving myself so much at this age if not for AgEnt.
ඒ 3000ත් අපි කරගෙන යනවා ඉදිරියටත් අපි විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ වාගේ ව්‍යාකෘති වලට අපිට ලංකාව මේ විදිහට කටයුතු කරන්නට අපිට ඉඩ දෙනවා නම් මේ ඇගන්ටා කියන ආයතනයේ ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම අපට ධෛර්යය දුන්නා අපට සම්පූර්ණ විස්තර දුන්නා මේක හදන ක්‍රම දුන්නා අපට එහෙට ඇවිත් උපදෙස් දුන්නා ඒ අනුව කටයුතු කරපු නිසා තමයි අපට දැන් වර ගාඩිය 6000ක් තියාගෙන මේ ව්‍යාපාරය තවත් අපිට දිගු කාලයක් කරගෙන යාමට ලැබෙනවායි කියලා අපට ලොකු විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා.
When you next buy a McDonald's Big Mac in Sri Lanka, you will be eating AgEnt-sponsored lettuce. Or the next time you fly Sri Lankan Airlines, you will be eating fresh vegetables from AgEnt-sponsored polytunnels.
AgEnt did an awful lot of work in fruit and vegetables that are now here on the shelves at one of the supermarkets in Sri Lanka. Here's a good example. Bell peppers here come from hydroponic greenhouses where they grow this in soilless agriculture now. There's some other fruit and vegetables here that have come from AgEnt projects. We did a lot of work in tomatoes, all in hydroponics.
The success story continues in the food processing sector, in the poultry sector, and in the coir product sector. A unique environmentally friendly product has been expanded in Sri Lanka with the assistance of AgEnt. Coir fibre, a once unproductive byproduct of the coconut tree, is now used as a decorative implement in the US as a home and garden decoration in the shape of pets. Coconut peat byproducts are formed into bricks, grow bags and soil conditioners for organic growing mediums. Coconut Palm Resources is a company in the US formed specifically to distribute coir products from Sri Lanka. AgEnt's assistance to Maxis with increased know-how and modernized equipment has given them the opportunity to enter the export market.
When I started out in 1980 with around 100 chicks, I had no intention of venturing out into meat processing. I was a supplier of live poultry. My first contact with AgEnt was through the Department of Agricultural Development. I was initially helped to organize my marketing strategy. But the most important AgEnt support came when I was preparing to mechanize my plant. I was greatly encouraged, however, by my AgEnt-sponsored visit to the United States and France, and with the help of AgEnt experts, I purchased the necessary machinery. Technical guidance on poultry feed was also provided. The plant today employs 350 people. It is also the principal livelihood of some 400 contract farmers. This is a collaborative effort, and I will not take any unilateral decisions. My expansion plans will be drawn up in consultation with all these people.
Shetna Farms, another success story via AgEnt, started in 1956 with only 90 day-old chicks and limited technical expertise. Today, it is a limited liability company, having its own chicken feed mill from AgEnt and entering the niche market of pet foods with export horizons looming. Shetna Farms has been able to capture 37% of the local market and compete internationally because AgEnt was able to obtain a HACCP certification for its product.
Initially we were manufacturing only layer feed, that's in mash form, and with AgEnt's assistance we were able to bring down the feed mill that's presently in use and make pelleted feed for broiler, commercial broilers in the market. Now we are manufacturing 7 different kinds of feed and in 20 different pack sizes. After AgEnt's assistance for the feed mill, we were able to increase the employment opportunity for 12 people in this feed mill, and they are directly involved in the feed mill, and their immediate families consist of minimum 4 people. So we are employing again another few people from outside on casual basis, and further we are buying local products for this feed manufacturing plant as well.
We have a staff of almost 40 persons in the AgEnt project providing technical assistance in the areas of agribusiness and financial management, production, marketing, and policy reform support.
AgEnt's belief that sustainable jobs should be created at grassroots level initiated improving productivity and quality, increasing competitiveness.
We have exposed our dairy farmers to a technology assessment visit to the Oregon State University to study the dairy industry in the Oregon State. Also, we have organized 3 very successful dairy development pilot projects to show the farmers how hybrid cattle can give the potential milk production expected from them through better health care, through feeding, and through improved genetics. In the swine sector, we have promoted a private entrepreneur, the Chutudur Farms, to identify and import superior genetics from USA. And as a result of that, we have prevented the pig production program in Sri Lanka from a near disaster of inbreeding. Then in the poultry sector, that's a major sector where AgEnt has contributed quite a lot of our funds. 37.5% of total AgEnt contributions to the entrepreneur development has been in the poultry sector. And very good entrepreneurs like Maxis, Green Valley Farms, Shetna Poultry Farm, they have been benefited through our actions. Firstly, we exposed them for technology assessment visits to USA and then guided them to bring appropriate technologies from USA for poultry production in Sri Lanka.
I started out with around 10 swine in 1977, but the poor quality of the livestock resulted in very low yields. It was here that AgEnt stepped in, initially providing technical expertise. After visits to the United States in 1995, which proved to be a great learning experience, I received 32 swine under AgEnt aid. This helped me to improve my stock. Today, most farmers in the island depend on me to supply them with piglets.
Identifying local crops that can be grown successfully and demonstrating product opportunities to producers has been done with many crops.
We were able to give them the highest levels of technology through a collaborative program that was done with clients around agro industries, the Department of Agriculture. We had a series of demonstrations right around the country, and the people saw the difference between the highest levels of technology and the average conditions. Sunflower is a relatively new crop in Sri Lanka, and it was introduced by AgEnt with the assistance of the Department of Agriculture, and now this is catching on. The Southern Development Authority wants to grow 1,000 acres of sunflower, and for that purpose we are hoping to help them with a series of demonstrations in farmers' fields so that the farmers themselves could know the performance of these varieties.
Vanilla is a pioneer crop introduced by AgEnt. In 1998, AgEnt assisted 3 vanilla grower associations to organically certify their production, creating a unique supply of high-value organic vanilla for the world market.
The first step in this phase of vanilla cultivation is to tear the flower. Then you lift the tissue and tuck the stems under it. The flower is then clipped shut.
With the introduction and expansion of vanilla using 830 outgrowers, AgEnt has broken away from traditional crops like paddy, which have hitherto been the bread and butter of the farmer, who is at the mercy of Mother Nature to bring him his anticipated income and livelihood. Women make up a majority of the growers, and family income has sometimes doubled or even trebled. To assist vanilla cultivators, AgEnt published a booklet on a cost share scheme, giving the A to Z of vanilla cultivation. AgEnt's business development assistance included a financial advisory team with the objective of assisting clients to develop the preparation of a comprehensive business plan or project. Loan negotiation on behalf of a client from any leading financial institution in the country was also available.
We provide agribusiness and financial related service to our clients, which includes financial management and agribusiness management advice, preparation of business plans, project reports, feasibility reports. AgEnt, through its work with the banks in the past, have established a good rapport with the banks, and therefore any business plans or reports or projects recommended by us is looked at very favorably by the banks.
Under the Phase Assistance Program, AgEnt provided grants ranging from less than $50 to $96,000. Improving the professional and technical capabilities of the client to meet the changing needs of the domestic and international markets, AgEnt's skilled trainers conduct seminars, training programs and workshops. More than 40,989 were trained by AgEnt. Exposure of clients at local and international trade fairs brought in awareness and economic stability to many, given the continuous revelation of technical and marketing advice given by AgEnt in every area of agribusiness.
If we had not gone on a tour with AgEnt for the Poultry Expo in USA in 1997, we wouldn't have seen this machine, or we wouldn't have brought this machine to Sri Lanka. And now we are producing roughly 325 to 370 metric tons of feed per month, and we are hoping to increase this to 500 metric tons by end of the year. And we might have to, with the present demand we have for this feed, we might have to bring another feed mill, that's what we feel, or to bring other necessary equipment to increase the production capacity of this mill.
The training areas include processed food, spices, and poultry, focusing on in-country training programs and frequent SWOT assessments, namely the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat assessments of projects. Commercially viable business enterprises on the large, medium, small, and micro scales are able to obtain assistance for the purchase and installation of innovative machinery and equipment, drawing up feasibility studies for product development and test marketing, as well as improving the existing standards. AgEnt's assistance extends to the shipping of product samples for buyer evaluation.
When it comes to chicken, Bahira is a household name. Now these people also have been supported and helped by AgEnt in making these products available not only in the food city but all around the country. So it's available in supermarkets and high-grade outlets and retail stores, a household name in chicken. Another exciting range made by a client who has had assistance by AgEnt in acquiring new technology is this desserts. Now these are 100% vegetarian desserts. Trophy Fruit is another company which was set up further down south, and it was the first company that got into Tetra Pak, and this is Rich Life, the milk that they make. They also have various other types of fruit juices that come in Tetra packaging. And Rich Life is the product that is distributed around through the AgEnt intervention and the support that they have extended to this company.
Assistance in this sphere also covers the design and printing of labels and promotional and marketing material for products.
We start off by identifying and sourcing new and existing markets both in the domestic and export sectors, and in doing so we assist our clients to get across to trade fairs and exhibitions where we could effect buyer-seller linkages. Having done so, an important area that we get them to help them to get their products across, the samples across to the buyers.
One of the more successful projects of AgEnt has been the assistance given to women to improve and start their own industries and businesses.
I have always been interested in growing tomatoes. I had gleaned a little knowledge from reading magazines and books, but it was never enough. However, one day I came across AgEnt. In October 1999, I started my business of growing cherry tomatoes. AgEnt officials kept assisting me by giving advice on all aspects of growing cherry tomatoes, and today my produce is packed and marketed through the Protected Agriculture Entrepreneurs Association. My production has doubled the second time, and I'm sure with AgEnt's help, my business of growing cherry tomatoes will thrive.
Assistance to women entrepreneurs extends to identifying crops or relevant processed products, imparting technology and financial assistance, helping them to expand their businesses and launch new products, and the conduct of training programs. The heart of AgEnt is its fully equipped computerized Business Information Center, which is an up-to-date collection of publications, international trade magazines and product sector trend reports that are linked to an international information network.
We have a very good library facility here for the public, especially people who are interested in agriculture, horticulture, food processing industry. Quite a lot of literature is available here in the form of books, magazines, reports, whatever. And in addition, we have the internet facility also, so that on working days, any member of the public who would like to pursue their ventures on agriculture-based business, they could always walk in here and refer to prices, market information, production data, whatever they would like to in that particular sphere.
AgEnt now boasts of an online web page, giving clients the opportunity to advertise their products worldwide in cyberspace by listing their products on the AgEnt website. AgEnt's success in bringing Sri Lanka towards sustainability in the next century is amply demonstrated in the new heights achieved by their clients. AgEnt clients have been repeated recipients of Presidential Export Awards, Entrepreneur of the Year Awards, and National Exporters Awards.
What was done here was innovation. And what I liked about it, and I knew David Anderson in Jordan, and I knew that he was an enterprise development person with a lot of experience. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of experience to develop this technology. What impressed me was the design, which has been discussed, which dealt with a whole enterprise, not just a segment of the enterprise. So I thought the design was superior and led to success. And I think the implementation, which was a flexible approach, looking for products that would work here and looking for markets where the products would fit, that impressed me that the program was flexible and carried out with energetic people who were committed to developing agriculture. They had more than just time clock mentality. Then I liked the responsiveness on the part of the Sri Lankans. A lot of very capable entrepreneurs in this country who saw the technology and wanted to implement it. And then they worked hard to implement it and made changes. Maybe peppers didn't work for them or pyrethrum didn't work for them, but vanilla did. And to see it at the grassroots level, talk to this woman who had 4 children, had learned the details of pollinating vanilla, which is not overly complicated, but really detailed. She and her 4 children took care of 800 vanilla vines, and she's going to double and nearly triple her income if she gets a normal crop out of it. Then we saw the poultryman, and since I'm in poultry, I was really interested in this man who went to Atlanta, and went to the poultry show. And out of the poultry show, he picked up this technology of force molding, breeding hens, which saves him a lot of money, and replacing birds frequently can keep them longer. Their life cycle is more productive. Getting chain feeders, getting a feed mill, since feeding is such a huge part of the animal agricultural field, it's where your costs are. So he lowered his costs, improved his efficiency by 10 or 15%. And then we saw this woman who has a yogurt plant. And she wanted to get a machine, a separator, homogenizer. She needed these machines to have better quality yogurt and to do more of them. And she did this with AgEnt's help. And then she wanted to get into horticulture. And then when she was at a trade show in the Netherlands, she saw tissue culture and was approached by somebody to do tissue culture. So here's a woman running her own business that is successful, and all of a sudden she has 2 new businesses, and she earns more money, hires more people. That is what agribusiness is all about. You create jobs, you employ people. I think one of the superior aspects of implementing the grant was that AgEnt decided they were going to interview people and decide which people were going to survive in this competitive world that we live in. And then they worked with the people who were going to survive, not just the people who weren't going to survive. They give them technology information and they don't know what to do with it. And there are those people there. But AgEnt found entrepreneurs who were willing to make the technology work, and they were survivors. And now I think the base is there. People have seen what needs to be done, that they can build on that base, and that can be successful in the future with some support.
With enterprises large enough, the sectors now found it necessary to organize themselves into trade associations for their mutual benefit. AgEnt formed or strengthened 18 trade associations to help members solve industry-wide problems.
Being a part of NAC, first and foremost, it gives us a sense of confidence that we can form a forum where we air our problems or our views or our ideas through the NAC directly to the government, people who are concerned in formulating policy and also in administration, mainly where exports are concerned. Opening up the American market for coir. This was done by various trade promotion visits, participation in trade fairs, meeting directly with the importers through the media, through the internet. We benefited a lot. When we went to the States first, we thought that USA was a very big market, just waiting for us to enter. But we went, and when we went first, we found out that coir was not a household word in the US as in Europe and in the eastern countries like Japan and Taiwan. But there was a lot of interest and a lot of keenness on coir, and AgEnt really helped to develop this and get the market for us. As a group, we were able to go to the government with the help of AgEnt, who was always there, and we spoke to various ministers, the various ministries, the department concerned. We were able to iron out some of our problems.
During the last 3.5 years, with the help of the AgEnt USAID funded AgEnt project, we were able to transfer the technology to very many people, also train very many personnel in the country, and also we could link the marketing sector with the growers by having a lot of seminars and that type of thing. Also, we could expose our membership to international markets also. Some members visited foreign countries on cost share basis from the AgEnt project, and this has given our members a very good opportunity to think about the development of this industry.
The association set industry-wide standards, voiced common concerns regarding policies and regulations that affected their industry, shared best practices, and conducted nationwide advertising programs. Vote for Chicken came out during the national parliamentary elections in response to a glut on the market for broiler chickens.
කුකු ලගේ ගුණ පෙන්නනවා කුකු ලගේ මිල අඩු වෙනවා කුකුල් බලේ රජ වෙනවා මුදලාලි මේ අහන්න හරි ගානට අපිට දෙන්න ගිය පාරත් කුකුලා අපිට
Vote for chicken every day. The low-fat, low-cost, tasty goodness. This propaganda campaign is brought to you by the All Island Poultry Association.
AgEnt's participation and recommendations in policy and regulatory reform enabled businesses to grow in liberalized markets. For example, AgEnt advocated the liberalization of import duties and tariffs for agro-technology inputs, as well as revised standards for the importation of improved genetic material.
The project has established good relations with the government and the main advocacy groups representing the agribusiness sector. This makes my job easy. So far, we have had a significant impact in the following areas. A, the removal of tariff barriers on the importation of agro-technology imports. B, the formulation of a legal framework for the importation, production, and marketing of seed and planting material. And C, the preparation of a policy framework for the livestock sector of Sri Lanka.
As a result of the policy reform support activity of AgEnt working hand in hand with the trade associations, AgEnt made notable achievements in resolving important policy and regulatory constraints in Sri Lanka. Examples of some of these are the abolition of duty on all purebred breeding animals, the duty waived on sprinklers, netting used for agriculture, laminates of paper, polyethylene film and aluminium foil used for packaging of milk and juices, the abolition of duty on fruit and vegetable canning machinery, milking machines, dairy machinery and meat and poultry processing machinery, and the duty being abolished on stainless steel milk cans, seeds, spores and planting materials. The goal of the associations is to strengthen the industries and build capacity within the industries by sharing information through newsletters, seminars and interaction at annual general meetings, which provide an excellent opportunity for exchanging ideas, conducting business and socializing. AgEnt was able to build sustainability at industry level through the formation and strengthening of trade associations. AgEnt then began putting the finishing touches to its superstructure, the Pilot House, which will guide and shelter the investment in agribusiness and the trade associations through the formation of the National Agribusiness Council. Launching the NAC in Colombo, attended by representatives of all agribusiness sectors in Sri Lanka and decision-making officials of the government and private sector, the NAC began on a positive note, vowing to build a constituency with a vested interest in policy change which will bring in sustainable policy, regulatory and institutional reform.
Welcome to the launch ceremony of the National Agribusiness Council. All of us here have been touched by AgEnt at some time or another, and all of us know that the pioneering pragmatic work done by AgEnt to spearhead agribusiness in Sri Lanka is one that has not hitherto been seen in this country.
It's really a pleasure and also an honor that this evening on the eve of my departure from Sri Lanka that I'm able to formally inaugurate tonight in Colombo the National Agribusiness Council to continue the work of the USAID funded AgEnt Agro Enterprises project, which will be the apex representative body in the local agribusiness sector. The Council is going to be part of the National Agribusiness Trust, which has been established by AgEnt to sustain our activities in Sri Lanka. The National Agribusiness Trust is a charitable organization with the purpose of trying to assist the rural farming sector of Sri Lanka to introduce new research and development efforts to train the agribusiness sector in productivity and competitiveness. The objectives include uniting the agribusiness sector to facilitate an enabling environment for improving the viability and increasing the profitability of agribusiness in Sri Lanka. In fact, if you will note, that is our mission. To provide advice and assistance and direction to the agricultural community, to the public and to the government on developing, facilitating the growth and profitability of agribusiness, formulating strategies to increase productivity and improve competitiveness of the sector, and provision of technical assistance and accurate and timely market information. This is a logical transformation of AgEnt from a donor-funded project to a sector-driven participatory body which will be sustainable over the long term. And we're sure that this will ensure that the momentum that was developed by the project in local agribusiness sector will be sustainable.
Recently, the Ministry of Industrial Development, with the assistance of AgEnt and the Institute of Policy Studies, prepared Sri Lanka's first agro-industrial strategy and policy reform action plan. This is a seminal document, one that calls upon the government to take some bold initiatives in order to transform the agribusiness sector and set the stage for industrialization.
I realized then
the value of these organizations have been created. Because for the first time, I saw that people in agribusiness had the opportunity to speak in one voice.
Charitable trust agreement was signed by a representative of the Board of Trustees of the National Agribusiness Council and David Anderson, Managing Director of AgEnt.
At the early stage, I think DOA didn't work so closely with AgEnt, but later on, step by step, when AgEnt started their activities, DOA learned from the farmers that AgEnt is doing, much activities for the farmers, and then DOA also came to work with AgEnt. Since we didn't have the national level institute to work with, we didn't work at the beginning, but now I am very happy to say we are looking forward to work with NAC, the national level institute, where we can straightly work with them.
The ministries are now anxious to work with the NAC, an opportunity they have not been able to have as there was no collective voice.
The project, in my judgment and in our collective team's judgment, is that this is a project which has accomplished perhaps more than any other enterprise development or agribusiness sector development donor aid program that we've seen in certainly my 30-year career in doing development work. The project has attained a high degree of sustainability and exceeded in virtually every capacity measured its output performance indicators.
Well, I'm very excited, about the NAC, the National Agribusiness Council. I think to have a follow-on entity and organization that can build on the foundation, the work that AgEnt and its partners have done is really exciting. There's a lot of work that remains to be done, and I think I know many of the major actors in the NAC will be the major associations that AgEnt has helped create and nurture, but from what I've seen of several of those associations, I think they really are ready to go to the next stage. I'm sure they will have, as individual associations, issues to deal with in the choir sector or in the food processing sector and those kinds of things. But they have broad cross-cutting issues that they need to talk to the Sri Lankan government about policy things, about the way the Sri Lankan government is providing different kinds of support, how they're taxing things, how they're building infrastructure, that hopefully this will give a body that can speak on behalf of the agribusiness sector broadly defined, and also I think perhaps be an umbrella organization for the individual sector groups, which I think still have an important role to play. So I'm excited that it's been formed. I'm glad that AgEnt has, even in its final phases, been able to focus on building that successor organization. I'm glad that we from the American government side have been able to find some resources to help support the Agribusiness Council. So I'm excited. I think it will be the next chapter, and I don't think it'll be the final chapter in the development of private sector and agribusiness and processing industries and export industries. There's a lot of exciting potential here that hasn't yet been tapped, and I think with the dynamic private sector, with the Agribusiness Council, with the sectoral groups, I think there's a lot more to be done that will just add to the legacy of AgEnt even after the AgEnt project itself wraps up. But I think the legacy will only continue to strengthen. So I'm excited about it.
AgEnt has been working purely with the private sector, and the private sector they did a private sector initiative. As a result, I would say, again, coming into it, they made it possible for us, for the government, to have a team of people or an organization which we were able to work with and get their opinions. And also it turned out to be a lobby organization which was very vital. And AgEnt was the, I would say, the matchmaker in between. And as a result, we were able to do a lot of work with them. And our Export Development Board was able to marshal the groups as such, that the associations, when it came for sending them abroad for our exhibitions and other areas. So earlier what we did was that we were going at selecting people individually. Now we write to the association and say, please nominate somebody on this segment who has the knowledge and who has a good business so that the business could improve on that. So the NAC, the National Agribusiness Council, I think the government from here onwards will be supporting the National Agribusiness Council, the NAC, to a great degree, where we find this structure that has been created actually merges with the government sector such as, so that we can work in cooperation as partners now. So this was created, I mean, this really has given the government sector the opportunity to use our funds, also we are giving very economically, and to target them. So I think I am very grateful to AgEnt for having created these institutions and also bringing the government and this private sector together and also creating the partnership between us.
And then I guess just as an economist, I've seen, you look at the effect it's had on the Sri Lankan economy, the jobs it's created, the exports that it's created, and the growth that's there and in the economy, and particularly in certain regions of the country. I don't know, I think it's accomplished a lot. I think that's an impact that will endure and will be to the benefit of Sri Lanka and of the U.S. I mean, because I think we as a government and everyone involved in the AgEnt project will be able to claim a lot of credit for a very successful project and one that's had an incredible impact.
Oregon State University, with its collaborators DAI and FinTrack, through the AgEnt project have done really something extraordinary here. We started by building sustainability at the enterprise development level, but we have had it spread upwards and downwards. Okay? Downwards to address poverty alleviation by creating sustainable jobs and the capacity to create income for poor families. Jobs means income. Sustainable jobs means sustainable income. And a real solution to poverty alleviation. AgEnt went up by building sustainability at the national level through the National Agribusiness Council. The NAC provides a common ground for the public and private sectors to solve common problems for common people. It's a place where policy can be formulated backed by a constituency group with a vested interest in the policy. Sustainability at the national level is characterized by an advocacy group with a clear, single, united voice from the private sector to the public sector, who now considers NAC a partner in helping Sri Lanka to grow.
Well, just that as I said before, I guess I've been in the American Foreign Service for 30 years in Africa and the Middle East, always in developing countries, and now in Sri Lanka the last 3 years. And I think that AgEnt is one of the, just true handful of most successful projects I've seen in any kind of a sector, and I'm talking about USAID, but also World Bank projects and others. I think the way that one has gotten directly to people and made a difference, and it's, I mean, in many ways, I'm sort of two emotions on it. One, I'm sad that the AgEnt involvement directly in the project is coming to an end, but I'm really proud of what's been accomplished and confident that the project and the organizations that it has nurtured will go on and build from it. So I think we should be celebrating the success of it and trying to, all of us, including the American government hopefully, learn some lessons about why it worked so well and not stop watching it. I think we need to keep observing it, and we're going to try at the embassy, I know, even though I won't be around to see it happen, to see with the Agribusiness Council if we can keep supporting that, because I think it's an organization that will have a vital role to play in Sri Lanka. So I congratulate everybody involved in the project in Colombo, first of all, at AgEnt, and back at Oregon State, and in the other partner organizations, and in Washington, the USAID that's been involved in supporting it. I think it's a success story we should all be proud of. I certainly am.
And as AgEnt closes its doors and leaves the shores of Sri Lanka, the legacy of AgEnt will continue to live on in Sri Lanka for years to come through the National Agribusiness Council.